Hello everyone, welcome back to another video of Flutter from scratch. This is number 6, Sita, and today's video we're going to talk about functions in our code. So functions are just things that allows your code to do something. Like they are designed or programmed to perform a specific task. It can be one task, it can be multiple tasks, but all of that is encompassed into a function, right? And in our previous video, we looked at iteration, repetition, loops. Yeah. And in this video, we're going to look at how you can prevent yourself from repeating yourself. I hope that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but we're going to look at how you're going to write code that prevents you from repeating yourself. Okay, what do I mean by this? I mean, like, there are some instances in programming or coding where you're building applications whereby you have this particular thing and you'll need it like somewhere and you will need it again another place, but you want to avoid the hassle of you writing that code again, right? Let's say you're going to let's just use the simple one, the hello world, right? You want to print some numbers, right? And you've printed them already up there. Then again you reach a point you want to print it again, then you print it again and again and again, and it becomes just so strenuous and hectic for you, and you need an alternative, something easier. And that is where we say functions come to the rescue. So because functions, they just combine all that and put it in one place and just call it, and the task is done for you. So we're going to look at how functions are written in DART. This is just an introductory part of it. Yeah, and you're gonna see how we can execute it in code. And without going further, let me just mention that we have interacted with a couple of functions already by now. The number one function that we have always talked about and said, and it's just on our screen right now, is the main function, right? The main function is the entry point of execution of your application, right? So without the main function, nothing can happen. So main is just one of them, right? We've also looked at print function. So look, the one that allows you to print output on the console. That's the function, print function. So today we're going to write our custom functions and see how we can write functions ourselves and also give power by ourselves to it, because we're just super cool superheroes, right? So let's do this, man. Let's do this. First of all, without further ado, let me just mention that when you say that main is a function, it is, and this is basically the anatomy of a function, right? It starts with the function type, like the return type, and then the name of the function, then the parentheses, then the curly braces, right? For instance, we have void main, then the parentheses and the curly braces. We have called it my void because the first return type, so this is called the return type, enyarudisha, return officer, return type, I mean, okay? So the return type means that this function expects to return something at the end of it, and this something should be a value of this particular type. Remember, we talked about types, we talked about booleans, we talked about strings, we talked about integers, we talked about the numbers and stuff. And in this particular case, they kind of align to how we define a function as well, because functions are also types, okay, not types per se, but there are also ways of declaring usable stuffs, like just how you define a variable. You also need to define a function so that you can call it later on to use it. And how would you do it? Let's just start with the one that returns nothing, right? It doesn't return a value. Let's say we want to have a function void. So we've said that it's void because it returns nil. So void means just nil or zero, numero zero, and it doesn't return anything. Okay. So void, let's call our function do something, right? Do something, that way. Then inside the function, we have the function body. Let's say we want this function to print do something, okay? Do something. So like print, let's say inside there we say do something. something. Yep. So right now we have declared this function already. We have defined it. Okay. We now need to call it so that it can execute. Okay, and show us something on the screen. Right. How will you do that? We will say, so the way of calling a function is just very easy. Actually, you've already defined it, so just come here, over here, and do something. And unlike the variables, whereby variables you don't have the parentheses, you need to omit them. But in function, when you're declaring when you've declared a function and you need to call it, you must add the parentheses so that it shows that this is a function call. Okay, what have I said? A function call. Repeat with me, a function call. Good. Now let's just add a semicolon at the end, and when we run this code, what do we see? We can see do something. So like, yeah, clearly it has printed out to the screen do something. Okay, nice. Now what if we want this function like to have indeed a return type, right? We want it like yeah, we want it to have the return type. Let's just say we want it to return the string, not to print it but to return the string value to something. How will we do that? We will just say string, just like how we did the variables, right? So string is the data type. So the function of type string do something, just like that, and then we have the curly braces. Right now it's screaming. Why is it screaming? Because it's returning nothing, but you told it to return a string, so it's kind of confused. Yo, you told me you want this thing to return a string, but right now the function body you really not giving anything, so it's kind of confused. So what you need to do is to pass a string for it to return. Okay, and how we do that? We now introduce the keyword return. Okay, the keyword return. And this is how we do it. Return. Let's just say, yeah, so it's a string. So we incorporates it in the speech marks. So we just say do something like that. Then voila. Okay, still complaining. It's saying, oh, it has already been defined somewhere. Yeah, so let's just call this one another do defined, another do something. Okay, so right now we are not using the print do something, we're using return do something because this function is returning a string. Okay, so how will we call this? Just the way we call the other one up there. We just say another do something, and when we do that, when we run this, what do we see? Let me comment this one out first of all so that this function doesn't get cold. When we run this, what we will see is nothing. It is nothing because clearly there's no print statement, so like this cannot be printed on the console. So for us to print it, like for us to see something, we need to add a print function inside here. So like we just use another function to call this function. So print another do something. Yeah, another do something. And when we run it, we will see do something over here. Okay, but let's just say another do something. Another do something. And when we run it, we will see another do something because this function, it is a function, yes, but this function after it has been executed, the thing that it's returning is a what? A string. Okay, let's use the analogy of maize. I love maize. I'm a maize person. So when you go and you want to make your maize flour, okay, you take your maize, right? You pass it into the grinder. Okay, it gets crushed. It gets crash. Then the output is the flour. Okay, so the maize, it's the input. Okay, the grinder does the process, and flour is the output. So basically, that is just kind of like how functions work. Okay, good. And what if we want to do this with we've tried the string. Let's try with an integer and see. So let's say let me just comment this one first. Then we say I love 5 and x. So let's get an integer. X is equals to 5 semicolon. Then we would say just let's see, int show, okay, int print num. Okay, print number. Let me just use something we can relate to. So int print number is complaining because we don't have the return type. We told it to return an integer, but your body is null, so it will complain. By the way, unlike this one, you see, void do something, it is returning a null value. So here we are totally allowed to do this. Like, we can omit it out and we don't have an error, but this one, it is necessary that we put a return type to it. And in this case, we need to say return what? Let's try to return ball and see what will happen. Okay, it still complains, but there's a reason of why it's complaining. It's complaining because ball is a value of type string, but you need to return a value of type int. Okay, so what we'll do is just like return x, and the error gets gone. And when we now print the function, what we will see is, let's just do that down here, print the function was called print number, that way. And when we add the semicolon, then we run it. When we run it, it will see, we will see 5 on the console, right? So 5 is the number that has been returned by this particular function. Okay, now that is done. I hope that's okay till to that point, because the next concept that I want to introduce is parameters, right? And I know that, yeah, don't fret, don't panic. It's not that complicated. It's not rocket science. It's just something very, very simple. At times, you want to maybe collect some input from a user, right? And then this function, like, it operates or executes based on the particular input given. Like, it needs to be dynamic in some way, okay? Because let's say you're working on a grades application, right? And you have a function which adds the grades of students, right? This one varies because you won't be manually typing every time the grade, that is exhausting, that is hectic, and that is not professional, not advisable. So you will need something dynamic that will allow you to get input from a user and then call the function based on that particular input. Hope we good. Yeah. So in that particular scenario, let's just say we want to do something like, let's say we want to have a sum function. Okay, we want to have a function like, let's take, say, the function. Let's start with the void one first. Let's just start with the void function, then we'll go to the other one, the one with the return type. So let's say void sum, and then inside our parenthesis, so parenthesis, parameter, parenthesis, parameter goes into parenthesis. Repeat with me. Parameters go into parenthesis. Okay, now inside here we want to define 2 variables which are integers that we want to do the sum, because clearly we cannot sum strings So we need to define some integers over here. Let's say a, and then we'll take b. Okay, then inside this particular body, inside the body of this function, we would say, let's say something like okay, we just say simple arithmetic. So it's a plus b. So that is what we want it to do. Okay, let me print this out first. Let me cut that. And when you print a plus b, okay, because this is a void function, not a return function. So how will we call this function then? Because we have now introduced the parameter. How will we call it? Down here, we will come here and say sum. It will ask us a, b, meaning you need to pass something to it. I say that you need to take input from a user. This is where that comes in place, right? Because we need it to be dynamic based on what a user provides, like anything. But we need this operation to flow. So inside here, you can just say something like 8, and you can say something like 7. Okay. So basically, this is just how we have called this function. We have called it and passed it. We've passed two values into it, 8 and 7. So I said inside the parentheses, when you're declaring the function, they are called parameters. Okay? But inside, when you're calling the function, when you're putting inside them, they now have a different name. Don't ask me why, because I didn't build these things, man. They just found them. But they're now called arguments. Okay? So like arguments are the things that you pass to functions when you are calling it. Okay? So arguments you pass into the functions when you're calling the function. Parameters you pass into a function when you define the function. Okay? Sawa. So we've already called the function sum, and we've passed 8 and 7 to it. What happens when we print it? Okay, what happens when we print it? We'll see 5. The 5 is just this one. The int x is equals to 5. We'll just comment that one for now because we're done with it already. And we'll see 15. So all you need to do, like anywhere in your code, like down there, you'll be like, I have these two values. Instead of manually 10, just call this and pass in your arguments, and you'll be good to go. So yeah, right now I can even say like 25, as long as just an integer. 27 plus 7, that is 34. So when we run it, we expect to see an output. Yeah, 34 written out over there. Okay, and this spans to multiple operations. Like you can use multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, name it. Yeah. This is for the sum. I said we want to do it again using the return type int and see what will happen. So let's say int sum is equals to yeah, int a sum, int b. So return something, because clearly, so we just return here a plus b. So this one looks more clearer than this one, because this one we said print. So inside the print function we said a plus b, but now here we are returning a plus b. So it's complaining. It's complaining because I already defined this with another name. So let's just give it another name. Another sum, that way. So now when we want to call this function down here, we will say print another sum. Not that one. Another sum. Yes, another sum. Then 10, just passing the arguments 10 and 10. And when you add your semicolon over there, when you run your code, you will find the output as 20. 20. So 20 is a sum of 10 and 10, clearly. So this is 10 and 10 is an integer plus this as an integer, so int a plus int b. Okay, nice, nice. So any question, class? Any question, class? Okay, so if there's no question, I think we'll stop it from there for today. But in our next video, we'll cover part 2. So if there's a part 2 of these functions, we're going to look at briefly another way, of simpler way of declaring functions and using them. Like, unlike this one, so you have the curly braces and the body, and it's just so long. We have a one liner definition, like just define it in one line, and that is arrow function. So stay tuned for the next video. That is arrow functions coming up in the next video. And then after functions, we get into classes. That's just a step away from us officially starting Flutter. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned a thing or two. So yeah, be sure to like, subscribe, and share to many other people who might find this useful to them. But till next time, hope you have a lovely weekend, a lovely week ahead, and see you in the next one. Ciao. Adios.